Hello, it's Matt O'Leary, and it's time for the first album review of 2019. It's the third album, Scholars, by the band Buke Gase. Buke Gase is this experimental duo from Brooklyn that honestly I almost forgot existed. Their sophomore album, General Dome, is the one that sort of sauntered its way into my life back in college, and it just remains a peerless anomaly in my record collection. It's one that just refuses to align with any preconceived notion or expectation that a genre label could set up for you. It's too shifty. That album just had this spontaneous energy to it, even though it was obviously very precisely mathematical and calculated. And I ended up going back to their debut album, Riposte, which is exactly what that name implies. It's sharp, it's witty, it's cutting. Possibly the defining feature of this band's sound is right there. There's a definite sharpness to what they do, and there's almost always some jagged, stagnant riff going on. The album Riposte highlighted the band's namesake, the hybrid Frankenstein instruments they invented themselves, like the bass ukulele or the guitar bass. And it was on the folkier side, with General Dome moving in a more strictly distorted math rock direction. And you kind of realize that, you know, with the music being so meticulous, being so challenging to craft seemingly, you know, it's no wonder they haven't been putting out albums like King Gizzard or something. But in 2019, they've risen up like a phoenix and delivered the oddest album cover yet. So what do these two, Aaron Sanchez and Aaron Dyer, bring musically on Scholars? Right away you're going to notice the same grating, off-kilter rumble of the instrumentation on the opener Stumbler. There are about 5 or 6 different tones and instruments on this song alone, but never once are they played in sync and together and at once. At any given moment there's a pretty scant and sparse backdrop. And the album just continues with this deconstructed sparseness on the track Scholars, where every single sound that's introduced is like a new artifact on an Indiana Jones movie with its own, you know, strange and mysterious allure. And if you're expecting rock music, then just turn around, because there's no drum kit here. It's all digitally manipulated percussion. Which leads me honestly to my biggest critique with the album, is that it never feels like the songs really open up. It seems like there's a lot of built up and pent up tension that doesn't quite get the proper release, and there's no open ride cymbal chorus, you know, just to breathe, which makes tracks like Pink Boots and No Land really feel claustrophobic at times, like you're trapped inside of some small contained space, which is really a shame, because the songs, at least from a melodic standpoint, have plenty of opportunity to turn into a jam. In these cases, the minimalism of the percussion makes things feel real samey after a while, like there's no real change up in the dynamic. It actually reminds me a lot of why I didn't love the new Palm album, which is a math rock band. At any given moment in any song of theirs, I love the visceral sound, but across an entire song, it's like, it's just dynamically. But that doesn't mean on Scholars there's any lack of fascinating effects or atmospheres created. The stretch of 4 tracks from Wrong Side to Flock is easily the best portion of the album to me. Wrong Side was an instant standout, probably the most beautiful song just structurally and narratively. With this kind of dull and dissonant riff pinging between 2 pitches, the song sets up this binary of 2 perspectives, the wrong side and the right side. Aaron highlights some cruel and bitter polarities, starting with the most general, you know, wrong side of the road, wrong side of the knife, wrong side of the gun, into a little bit more specific of a story, which sounds like a dueling between 2 parties, with the bitter pill coming on the line, "Your right is wrong for me." The song suddenly shifts away from the chaos into this gorgeous but still menacing outro section with this synth or pad that sounds like a bouncing rubber ball. Boom, 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 boom. This 4-chord progression repeats and repeats, and this lovely vocal soars over the top. Lyrically, it sounds like this relationship between these two battling sides is splitting apart, maybe, and now you're just getting one isolated voice reflecting on it. That last line is just so melancholic and poignant. I willed your absence to face mine. There's so many different ways that could be taken, and that's the beauty of it. You can kind of imagine this as a really personal tragedy. Like, there's the mention of being on the wrong side of a rape at one point. Who knows, it could be about some dependency on another person that is abusive to you, and you feel that insane need to stay with them that just defies all reason. Then realizing that in their absence, you have to turn inward and really address your own scars. And it's that sort of rabbit hole that this song sends me down that makes it so memorable, along with the second half of the track just being hauntingly beautiful. Buke and Gase go their poppiest on the songs Grips and Flock, which have some incredibly catchy choruses. Aron's voice is really put on display a lot of times because the music is so sparse, and she could really be a pop diva. But even on these poppier numbers, the duo is playing so much with chord progressions and doing so many weird things that if you were singing these songs in karaoke, you'd have absolutely no idea how to transition from section to section. Like, there's no hint anywhere in the song, you just have to guess a pitch. You have to be incredibly familiar with the tunes to know how these circuitous melodies and serpentine chord progressions are gonna wind and slither. These songs definitely have the sheen, they have the styling, they have the production of something on the radio. But the compositional decisions are just so bizarre that none of these songs would ever appeal to the masses. Ultimately, Scholars ended up doing a little bit more for me intellectually than it did emotionally. I'm not that eager to return to it, even though I find it so otherworldly and oddly mesmerizing and intelligent. I think that last bit is probably the biggest takeaway. This is very smart pop music. But unless you're very open-minded about music and already have a thing for experimental pop and rock like Deerhoof or like Battles, then this is probably going to be a pretty tough listen. According to my very precise calculations, I think this is a 6.5 out of 10. Scholars by Buke and Gase. Definitely interested to hear what you think of this one because it is really weird. And if you have any other experimental pop albums in this sort of realm you want me to hear or you want others to hear, I mean, come on, this is a public forum. Please share them down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching.